All right. So I picked inflation as my final presentation for English 112, or my final paper, but also my presentation, which I'm doing right now. I picked inflation because it is something that is very relevant in everybody's day to day lives and how they budget and spend their money as of now. And it has been something that a lot of Americans or people around the Charlotte area have been dealing with for the past couple years. It also is very relevant to me because of the industry I'll be going into. I will be going into the international shipping industry, maritime business. So inflation has a lot to do with that and how that affects that industry, along with the trucking industry. Obviously, that affects it for a number of reasons. And I also have people I know in the Denver area where I live who own small businesses that have been affected by inflation and how they are dealing with that problem as of right now. All right. So the title of the presentation is "Dollar is no longer a dollar." Inflation can be defined as a general increase in the prices of goods and services in an economy. When the general price level rises, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services consequently. Inflation corresponds to a reduction in the purchasing power of money. According to Wikipedia, that is the meaning of inflation. Inflation is nothing new to the U.S. or to the world, but what we are expecting could be considered almost unnatural or very new to the U.S.'s history that we have with inflation. Just a couple of key points. There are three main types of inflation. First one is demand pull inflation. Second one is cost push inflation. And the third one is built-in inflation. All these are related to inflation, but there's a few kind of distinctive factors. Demand pull is just when you have an excess of demand of a certain good or service, and so the person that's providing that is able to raise the prices because the demand that product or service has. Cost push is similar to demand pull, but it's when the price for the materials and costs for that product increase. So even though there may not be a great demand for that product, you still need to raise your price to be able to afford to still produce the product or whatever service you are providing. And then the last type is a combination of both. And it's kind of when that everything becomes so expensive and you need to be paid more just to be able to afford it. That is what built-in inflation is, just kind of adjusting wages and everything to account for the prices of everything. Kind of a natural type of inflation that we've seen throughout history. Just as time goes on and things get more expensive, everything is adjusted accordingly. So now we've gone over the three types of inflation. There's also a couple. In this country, we've experienced a number of historical moments of inflation. I think I have four in my whatever you want to call my paper. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to read off, I think, just two real quick. So I'm going to paraphrase this one. So the longest period of inflation we've had in this country was during the 70s, from 73 to 82, so almost a decade being the longest. And it was just caused by two oil issues. So obviously most people know about the oil crisis of the 70s when you couldn't get gas or anything, or gas was being strictly rationed due to an oil embargo. So that was one thing. And that was from just importing problems from Arabian countries deciding not to sell to us. And then the second one was later on. First one was from the Iranian Revolution, and then the second one was due to similar issues. And then the most recent one we saw was in 2008 during the housing market crash. But we saw this was the shortest period of time, so we're going from the longest period of inflation to the shortest. This one was from July of 2008 to August of 2008. And there was a 5% increase in the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and the reason for this was a single barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude oil went from $70 a year prior to $140 in those 2 months. After that, we get into kind of just how inflation has been affecting Americans recently. So, many people have not been able to afford groceries and all that kind of stuff. And this is mostly due to the recent COVID-19 pandemic, really kind of brought production of goods and services to a halt. And so most of the inflation that we're experiencing right now is just due to a lack of supply. And so right now we're trying to get everything back. And the reason everything is so high is because there's no supply for anything. And this has been affecting people in many ways. And it also has affected our small businesses, obviously, from small businesses, as I stated previously, having to raise their prices, even though the demand may not be there, just to be able to keep their lights on and pay their bills. A couple solutions that have come up is attempting to lower the cost of energy. Most people think that the unchecked capitalism has caused the severe spike in the price of oil recently, and that we don't have enough. And if we could bring the price of oil down, then we are able to afford everything again, because oil basically runs the world in more ways than one, aside from shipping. But a lot of our plastic goods are made out of oil and all that stuff. And so once the price of that comes down, everything can come back down. But overall, inflation is something that we have seen throughout history in the U.S., and this has only been a very short period of time. And if we're patient and everything, and we stick with it, we should be able to get through it. Thank you.